Welcome everyone, and today we are diving into how AI agents, especially GitHub Copilot, will help us in a day-to-day activity. Right? This session is all about how we can go from 1x to 100x productivity using certain tools, and you can get started right after this talk. Moving to that, developers spend uh, today at least in 70% of their time not actually building features. It's debugging or writing a boilerplate or refactoring or just finding an existing code, right? That's where the AI agent comes in, not to replace any engineers. I clearly want to call it out, not to replace any engineers, but to amplify our capabilities. Imagine you having a junior engineer beside you 24 into 7 helps you to finish your work faster. This is what the Copilot offers, right? And what is Copilot? Where to use it? So Copilot is an AI-powered coding assistant built by a GitHub and OpenAI. It understands a natural language, learn from a context, generate a code suggestions, test, document, and even explains a code for you. It trains on a billions of code from open source projects, and it's available right inside your IDE. It can be in your VS Code, it can be in your any other JetBrains IDE, etc. Right? And who can take advantages? Any front-end engineers who can write React, Angular, JavaScript, TypeScript, any sort of frameworks. Even backend engineers, people can write Java code, Python, whatever, C++, right? C++ still are not that familiar, but even it can help in a test engineers, QA, who can write automation test engineering, right? For example, in Cypress, Playwright, Selenium, those helps in this Copilot too. So not only developers or a QA, even IT analysts can make use of it. If someone wants to look into the code base, try to understand how this code, what is this features, what is the reason it built and all, the IT analyst can make use of that. Right? With that, let me walk you through how easy that it can be get started from a scratch, how to install the Copilot extension in your editor or any IDE. So, well, with that, we'll get started. Well, everyone knows, most of engineers knows, this is a VS Code editor. And if people are not familiar with this, you can just download this VS Code. VS download. Yeah, this is from Microsoft again, and most of the front-end engineers are aware of this editor. They can just simply download based on the machines, right? And not only, as I mentioned, not only in a VS Code, you can use any JetBrains or even Eclipse. Anywhere you can use this AI agents, right? I'm a front-end guy, so most popular VS Code. I'm just inclined towards that. Once you install VS Code, go to the extension and download this GitHub Copilot chat. Mine is already installed. That's the reason I'm not able to get that. But you can search with the GitHub Copilot chat and install it. Once you installed, you have a sign in option. Click on the sign in. Go to your ID GitHub account and log into that. And once activate, you can right after you can use it. How to open a GitHub AI agent here or a GitHub Copilot? Top right corner. Click on that. You'll get this option. So if you're getting this kind of word, text, everything, that means your Copilot is ready to use. If not, it will give you sign in or activation required, etc. Right? In my case, already activated, and I can ready to get started. So for demo, what I did is I created a small Angular app, which is nothing inside that, just a simple standard scaffolding, right? And this is what, if I run the application, this is what I can see, right? With the live demo, we can ask Copilot agent to create an e-commerce application, right? We'll keep it simple. We'll try to understand how this Copilot will work together and make my productivity much faster, right? In these days, if you want to create any e-commerce, it takes at least couple of days, right? Let's take it one day to complete this e-commerce application, right? And now with this demo, let's see how this Copilot will boost my productivity to 100x, right? So as I said, top right corner, click on it, it will open a Copilot. And with that, we can see there is an option called Ask Agent and Edit Mode. What is Ask? So if I want to ask anything related to this application, tell me what's inside this application, right? So this ask mode can be help for IT analyst. They can go and ask on this code base, hey, tell me what Java version is running. Tell me what is class this class is doing. Tell me what this features code looks like, right? So yeah, it says the framework is Angular, build system is Webpack, styling is SCSS, TypeScript S. Even you bring down the key components, the configuration file. Wow, this is pretty good. Right? I need not to go into the code base and check everything. I can simply ask this question, get all the summary of it. Right? So for engineers, what is the most beneficial thing? That's the one agent. Right? So agent, I can ask agent. Agent is different and AI is different. Agent means it will go and do the work and come back, test it, and it goes on. But in AI, is a one-to-one, peer-to-peer conversation. So agent is a little different than the AI, right? So if I ask AI agent to create an e-commerce website with some images, product images, right? With product images and description, also add price tag, right? If I hit enter, let's see what's gonna happen, right? So Copilot start reading what is my package JSON. So package JSON is, as most of front-end engineers knows about this, is a dependencies will be listed out in this package JSON, right? It went through and read all my package, what are the dependencies configured for this application, right? So now it knows the context, now it knows the dependencies, it's still reading the code base, right? So now it's giving the summary what it's gonna create. It says I'm gonna create a product model. Boom, it got create a product model, right? What next? Yeah, the second step it should pick, create a product service with the sample data. Now we should create a service. Okay, it created product service, right? All the code with a mock data it got added, right? And now it created header component. Look at that, it created header component, right? Now create a product. Okay, it got added HTML as well. Yeah, I didn't mention any of this navigation, but still it took it. But yeah, it's based on the prompt. As the prompt, whatever you give it, it it should be like more precise. The prompt you give a control, the AI agent will work based on the prompt too. Okay, now it created a product list component too. So that's pretty good. It updated HTML also. It's almost done. At the last part, you need to update the main app component and add styling. Right? It gave a plan 1 to 6, what it's gonna do, and it executing based on the plan only. Right? It updating the styling. SCSS is for styling. Yep, it updated in the main component now. failure to upgrade all the routings. That's great. So when it comes to the bigger task, right? The AI agent can take little more time to understand and plan it out and execute it. So so not only asking a new things to execute, but you can also ask, hey, there is some issue with my code. Can you fix it? If you give a precise prompt saying that okay, in error, there is some actual technical issue, fix it. It will go to the error component, search on the issues, and fix it. So not only creating a new thing, even for a debugging, for testing, anything you can use it for a in your day-to-day activity. Right? It's almost done. So now I'll go back to this and refresh the application. Okay, still working on. So once this is done, right, it will ask you, hey, do you want to keep this code or undo it? It won't apply immediately. That's the beauty of it, right? Even though if you're not satisfied, you can say undo this and execute this prompt multiple times, and whatever uh, um, that one you can say keep it. So the advantage of this LLM, each time the response is different and much more smarter and smarter, right? So again, it's based on the prompt. The prompt should be much more precise. What do you want? What are the rule set? What is the guidelines? The context, everything should be much clear. So that way it will execute whatever you are thinking the same way. Right? Now this is reading out what are the changes. It did it. So it's just giving a summary that what are the changes went through and executed everything. Yeah, we just gave a prompt to create an entire e-commerce, even though it's a simple the e-commerce, adding a product to the cart, execution, those things will come into picture. That's why it's taking little longer time. Not only creating this any code, even for QA engineers, this can help in the data activity. For example, if you want to write any automation test cases, right? Go to the component, give a prompt to the AI agent saying that, hey, these are my component and this is the business logic. Generate an automation test cases. So AI agents can go through the business logic, go through the code side by side, understand and create a test scenario, test suits for you. So that also I can show it how this unit test cases or E2 test cases can be generated by this agents. Okay, still working on it. Yeah, always we should double check what AI creates it. Don't trust always AI is right. So still you have to validate whether this code changes whatever coming in from the AI. It's need to be correct or not. Because AI you always treat it's a co-pilot, not a pilot. You should not treat that as a pilot. It's just a co-pilot. Helps you to boost your productivity. So review it, if you like it, keep that code, or else you can reiterate this prompt, run multiple times. So back to this, with all the prompts, the AI agent got created an entire e-commerce site, right? And it asking me, hey, these are the files. Do you want to keep it or do you want to undo it? So I have a two option. If I want to keep it, all the files turn into same mode now. And coming to this application, boom. So entire e-commerce application got created. As we said, add images, few descriptions, add the price tag too. Boom, it went extra one step ahead. So price tag with discount, with all this, had to cart, quick wave, tons of things it got added. Again, this all controlled with a prompt. My prompt should be whatever I need, exactly the right context. If I don't give it, it goes and cook extra things, right? So yeah, I can hide all this word created, right? And I can literally replicate any of this application, right, within with simple prompts, right? So again, so ask is for any analyst. If you don't want to touch any code, if you want to ask any questions related to the code base, right, ask is the right thing in our Copilot. And if you want to do the agentic mode experience, meaning go and do things and test it, come back, reiterate the things, that is what agentic mode. Edit will give you, hey, this is a suggestion. For example, if you choose edit mode, right, and can you help me to create a header component with some smart colors, right? If I give the smart, if I keep it edit, it gives a code. Okay, sometimes it's gonna happen. Yeah, it reads. Okay, something happened with this AI. Okay, but edit mode gives a code or instant correction on this chatbot, on this chat window. If you like it, you can click on apply. It edit mode won't go and update in the component. That's the simple thing of edit. And right next to that edit, there is a hundreds of models here, right? So based on your premium models, standard models, for development, always use a Claude Sonnet, Anthropic models. And if you're thinking, I mean, if you're using any reasoning or calculative, then Gemini is good. O4 Mini is good. GPT models are pretty good for the reasoning and fast processing, right? So with that, going back to this application, yeah, what are the core uses? We already saw it can be used for a code generation. We created an e-commerce application and we can refactor, document, and explain the code. We already saw the explain code, and we can simply go to the unit testing and refactoring the code or documenting code as well. Right? I'll just quickly show that how it can be helpful in our generating and unit test cases, right? So I'll say create header component to this, right? Right click, Copilot, add files to chat. All right, generate a unit test cases for this component. Ah, come on. I switched to edit mode. Let me go back to agent mode. Right. Create a unit test cases for this component. Right. And by default, it should take command adjustment, and that's what my application configured. So that's the reason I did not mention anything in my prompt saying that create a test case using particular Java, I mean, karma or adjustment, something like that. Right. Now it's creating a test cases for the header component. It should create a brand new file for this, for spec files. Let's keep an eye on that. Boom, it got created a spec file. Along with that, it added all the test suites. Right. It's pretty good actually. It created all the unit test cases. Right. What else? It can create unit code, unit test cases, code generation, refactor, definite documentation. It can create, right? It can be any sort of MD files or any other extension. You can easily create it. With that, let's see how does it looks like. So before, to write a form code, right, or any sort of forms, it used to require 30 minutes traditional dev time, right? But now it can be done in 5 minutes, right? Writing a test cases and hours together that people used to spend in writing a unit test cases or E2E test cases, now it can be done in less than 10 minutes. Refactoring a code, it's one of the biggest challenge developers or any engineers need to understand what's going on with the refactoring with the existing code and refactor it manually. It can take up to 45 minutes to 1 hour. Now it can be done within 5 minutes. Of course, documenting again, read through the code, understand, document it. But now it's an instant. You no need to document anything because AI agent, while creating any sort of code, it creates a document. It takes a command. It again depends on the prompt, whatever you give it, right? To debug any existing code, let's assume is a decade-old code, need to understand, need to add some new feature, right? Or any issues that you want to fix it. It takes a lot of time. At least in hyper case, 20 to 30 minutes. But now to debug or understand any code, it can take in 2 minutes because it gives a summary of the code, right? So that's the overall view about how you can use AI agents in your day-to-day activity to increase your productivity from 1x to 100x. With that, and that's all the session is all about.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I love it's a dangerous gambit to do live coding. So thank you for trying it out.
Yeah, sometimes it throws some different error. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, if anybody has any questions out there, please do write them in on whichever platform you're watching us on, and I'll ask those questions. But I'm going to jump in with the first question, and it's one thing that I've seen a little bit of a backlash against the AIs is that they're fantastic 80% of the time. And then 20% of the time, they just go off script and they start doing crazy things. So people are saying that it's almost, they are getting a benefit, but it's not the full benefit because of that almost kind of revert bit when it starts doing some weird and not accurate things.
I totally agree with that. So as I said, it's a co-pilot. We should not let this as a pilot. So anything, it's controlled with the prompt again. See, with the prompt, whatever I gave it is, hey, create a simple e-commerce application, create some product image, price tag, and description. But it went 10x. Then it created a component, deals, quick overview, everything, right? So sometime you have to give a GitHub Copilot instructions along with that, saying that hey, you have to limit to this, you have to do this kind of component changes, only doing this. So again, based on the prompt too, and moreover, this is not going to replace any engineers. It can only boost the productivity, and yeah, that's what I can say.
And I guess the other question, kind of related, there's a meme about code reviews. If it's like a 10-line code review, you'll get 100 comments. But if it's like 1,000-line code review, you get like a thumbs up, looks good. So the idea behind that is that people will spend a lot more time in smaller chunks reviewing it and really thinking through it, whereas bigger chunks is just too difficult. So is there a way to stop or do you have a good tactic for preventing the AI from creating far too much code? Because then there's the bias or the risk there that you'll just go, yeah, it's good enough.
Yeah, definitely yes. So now the GitHub has their in GitHub official documentation. There is a GitHub Copilot instructions MD file. So keep that in your project. So every time Copilot reads through the instruction, so any instruction, for example, if you're using Angular, hey, you always use latest Angular standards, right? So maybe control flow syntax. Always use signals. Always use RxJS patterns. So these are the pre-instructions you're giving it for a copilot. So copilot will always go and read that instruction and come back and execute it. So it's always good practice to keep the instructions in your application. It can be anywhere, not only in the front end. Even in Java, you can keep that instructions too. That is readily available in a GitHub website too.
Right. And is there any kind of proven ones? Like I've tried this. I use Claude Code a lot. And sometimes it goes crazy, and I keep telling it, do TDD, do really small increments, test as you go. But then it does it for a very brief time, and then goes off and creates a lot of files.
See, that's a very good word actually. So always go with the small, right? Execute small. Don't go the whatever, create an entire YouTube application or something else, right? Always go with the small. I just want to show how it gonna do the wrong practice also. So now we know how to use a simple prompt to execute step by step, right? So yeah, small chunk by chunk is always the best engineering way.
And what do you like? So you gave some great examples there about particularly the understanding of the code, because that can be really difficult. You pick up a code base that hasn't been touched, or even you might have written it, but it was so
Yeah.
long ago you don't even remember anything about it. And that kind of understanding. And you also gave the example of like it could be an analyst or somebody else on the project just trying to understand. So do you think it's a good tactic now for teams to give everybody access to the code base, whereas traditionally that would have been the domain of just the developers?
Well, this is just playing in your local, right? So in local you can do anything, but again, on pushing to the remote repository, there is a control, there is a checks that is being monitored, or a gatekeeper kind of thing. So yeah, definitely any sort of engineers, if they really want to get into this kind of stuff, like development, testing, or understand what's really going to happen. Maybe as you said, decades of code, old code, right? If they want to pass through that, it takes a lot of time. So it's better to use in AI agents to understand in a simpler way. And there is a beautiful prompt saying that, hey, explain me this code for a 10 years old kid. So yeah, this kind of prompts is really helps in a simpler and simpler, better way actually.
Great. And the last question is just around context
Uh,
windows, because I know all of these different AIs, they have different context windows. So particularly with a large code base, do you find that you have to chunk it up in some kind of way so that the AI has enough context to read the code?
well, that's a good question too. So if you have a big chunk of code or a repo, right? If you want to pass through it, so first, of course, my suggestion, or a industry recommendation is, try to understand what is this code about, right? And create some sort of documentation. Ask Copilot, hey, create a documentation, run through this. It can create a documentation. Again, if you still want a component specific, right? Go and ask the particular component specific. If you just go on generic, explain me this application, it takes a lot of documentation, a lot of text. So an engineers can go really crazy. So it's better to go with component specific and understand, so that way you'll get a clear answer from the Copilot.
Brilliant. Some great advice there. I think that brings us to time. So I just want to thank you once again for sharing, and I hope everybody out there enjoyed it as much as I did.
Thank you.